start the Zoom. We should. All right. Good evening, Grafton, and welcome to the March 24th, 2026 school committee meeting. I call the meeting to order. Before we get down to business tonight, I did want to remember longtime GMS educator Paula Conlon. My daughter had her and really enjoyed the whimsy and fun she brought to the classroom. I don't know, Jay, if you want to talk a little bit about her career here in the district.
My own children had Paula as well. If you knew Paula, you were very fortunate. Wonderful woman, great educator, wonderful person. She was with us for almost exactly 30 years. She started as a student teacher. She graduated from Holy Cross, and then she came to us as a student teacher, finished out that year, and then became a teacher. Going through her file, she was always in grades 7 and 8, different schools and locations and everything else, but she was with us throughout and impacted thousands and thousands of kids and fellow educators. So she's going to be greatly missed. Services have not been set yet. Once they are, I'll obviously be sharing those.
Great. Thank you, Jay. It's going to take a minute. Next, I guess we'll start with public comment, if we have any. Okay. Seeing none, let's go to general business and an update from our Grafton Middle School leadership.
Do I need the timer to that?
I don't know. Do you?
I'll try to not. Thanks very much for the opportunity to present to you and the community this evening. It's a pleasure to head into work every morning and greet the kids and our educators. It's just an absolute privilege to be there. So Christine Martellio, those who don't know her, assistant principal at Grafton Middle, Chris Starcheski, principal at Grafton Middle. So our job tonight is to share a little bit about our story. We're not going to go into all the granular details of our program. Last year, we really dove in under the hood and celebrated almost every content area, talked about every club and activity and all that we're able to offer because of the great support of our community. This year, we're going to focus on some key elements that we offer instructional program-wise and co-curricular-wise, as well as highlight some new experiences that are being integrated into our program. So with that.
So one of the things we did as a staff last year, and many of our staff participated, was we read The Power of Moments. And for those of you that are aware of The Power of Moments, then you know what it's all about. If you're not, it really kind of digs into, what do we remember from our life, right? And we don't necessarily remember all of the big things, we might remember some of the minutia, but what can we do to create memories for kiddos so that there's something there that they'll remember that they can bring with them? So we really tasked this staff last year with doing that, and they did a phenomenal job. And I know we've highlighted some of that this year. So one of the things we wanted to highlight this year was some more of those things that we've been doing. So we won't just talk about curriculum, but we wanted to try and find those little moments in each of our curriculum areas, and then outside of the curriculum. A lot of the things that the community has been able to provide for us, you'll see at the end. So we started with our book club. So they did an extension book club. The teachers really loved the book Farewell to Manzanar. And there was no way to kind of fit it in, but a lot of the kids really wanted to enjoy it. So they've already met once. That's a picture of them there on that slide. And they really had a nice outpouring of, kind of participation. And they meet again on April 30th for sections 2 and 3. So if anybody is interested from the committee that would like to read it, come stop by. We'll get you a copy and you can participate. They do it during lunch. It's 7th grade lunch, which I want to say is about 10:45 to 11:15-ish. So if you want to participate and read a little bit, or just come and hang out and see what the second session's all about, please do, April 30th. Oh, I think this is still me. So our world language curriculum. So Erin Hernandez is our curriculum lead for world language. I should have said Nancy is our curriculum lead for ELA. And they do a lot of immersive activities, and you'll see that. So what we provided you there were a lot of different pieces on the slide of just students being actively learning. So in the world language, so we just have Spanish this year. And they really do make sure that it's an immersive experience and that all students can participate. And you can see the kiddos on the floor and they're in the hallways, and oftentimes they'll whiz by me because they're doing some sort of an activity where they have to go from one slide to the next slide, but they do it in the hallway rather than just kind of sitting at their desk. So they really try to make sure that the kiddos are getting a full experience. You see there, this is actually, there's a new one on the board now where they haven't picked a winner, but they go through and they choose down during the basketball season to see who's going to win during the March Madness. But it's all about the music and the culture. And so they go through, and then the kids will choose all of that through Google Forms. They figure out, and they go all the way down to see who wins. So that's just a little bit of that. And then lastly, as part of the experience, this is actually just started this week. They brought the Pulsera project back. So they partner with the Pulsera project, which is in Central America. I actually have my little go bag that I wear every day. And a couple of the teachers like, did you get? I said, yeah, I got that last year. And it's great. You can put your little cell phone in there and my walkie-talkie and my keys and a pen. And so that's great. And the kids, they can get their bracelets. So we have that going on the next 2 weeks, I think it is. So, and then they'll send all the proceeds over.
So from kind of a global awareness perspective with world language and the civics department, we really hone in on individual self-civic identity and, local, state, and federal government awareness with the kids. We're in the first year of full implementation of DKP, which is the Democratic Knowledge Project. It's a highly immersive project that takes the story of a fictitious character named Maria and her identity in civics. Along the way, the kids parallel her experience through their own lens, focusing in on a culminating project at the end of the year that will potentially be showcased at the statewide civics fair, sponsored by DKP, as well as their partners, the 1-8 Foundation, who we're a partner with, as well as Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. It's a tremendous resource. Our civics educators are participating in ongoing cohort partnerships with colleagues from across the state, as well as coaches who come in and do some site visits and provide some real high-level feedback. It's a very powerful experience. The idea of DKP is for kids really to own their learning and shift that cognitive load. And I was in civics. It was a lot of book reading and a lot of note-taking. This is a lot of discussion, dialogue, reading primary sources, but examining things as the kids are identifying their own identity and belief systems, looking at things critically and learning how to question. They recently were able to go to the Worcester Courthouse and sit in with Judge Daniel Wren, as well as some prosecutors in the Worcester DA's office and defense attorneys as well, to learn about the judicial system and have a discussion about that side of the process. It was exceptionally well received by the students who were able to attend. And we received, as we always do with Grafton Middle kids, tremendous feedback about the work that moms and dads, other caregivers, and our educators do around instilling, our core values of respect, responsibility, gratitude, and kindness. It's a real gem to have these opportunities for our kids.
So next, we're going to jump over to special education. Our curriculum leader is Brandon Thompson. So one of the things that was identified or has been identified for years is kind of digging deep into co-teaching. So a lot of people kind of think that co-teaching just means that there's two teachers in the room. But there's a lot more to co-teaching than just two teachers in the room. It is more about the experience that the students are getting alongside their peers, and the teachers can teach in many different ways. So what they've been doing this year, they've been doing a deep dive with Chris Kitchell, who is the special ed assistant director of special education. I don't even know how to say all of those titles, but he's the assistant director. And so he's been coming over. I want to say we've met 4 times and we have 2 or 3 more times. And he goes through all the different models. And then the teachers will use some of those models and then come back and report on it. And then they have a little bit of time to co-plan. They do have We actually did build into our system this year a lot of co-planning time for the co-teaching pairs, which has been really beneficial. So we've seen a lot more of that parallel teaching and a lot more of those types of experiences for our students, so that they're able to get a more immersive experience with their grade-alike peers.
When Christine and I began our partnership, almost 3 years ago, one of the feedback loops that I was informed of, and I talked with parents and other caregivers about, was inclusive practices at Grafton Middle. The co-teaching is a great example of us focusing on that. That impacts all kids. Specific areas that I really wanted to hone in on, though, were individualized participation in the school community. Last year, we started a stronger partnership with our Unified Athletics program, bringing Unified Bocce and the Unified Strength and Conditioning program. This year, a team of enthusiastic educators took on the creation of the Grafton Middle School Best Buddies chapter. We have 26 members participating. They participated in the first event that we had on March 17th, which was it was amazing. We had piñatas and confetti and tabletop games and snacks and treats. But more importantly, we had kids partnering with kids that they normally may not have partnered with. And the smiles, the laughter, the giggles, it was heartwarming, almost tear-bringing. It's a great opportunity for us to celebrate and identify even stronger foundations within our community. And I'm exceptionally proud of our teacher leaders who took this on, as well as the students who participated. Absolutely phenomenal. Specifically, Mrs. Grillo, Mrs. Narducci, and Mrs. Petritis. There were a host of supporting cast members, though. I think we had 13 adults in the room during their lunch block to spend with the kids.
We may or may not have worn mustaches.
Yeah, there were a couple of those.
Green mustaches. Our science curriculum. So our curriculum leader is Mrs. Wall this year. And our science teachers are digging into a shift towards phenomena-based curriculum. So really experiential learning, kids hands-on. How is this applied in every day? You can see some pictures there of some of the things that they're doing. They're actually, they'll talk about the current weather and not just like philosophically, but what is actually happening. So what does it look like there, and what is it going to look like tomorrow? And they can make some predictions. And so they're looking at the Open SciEd and piloting a chapter out of Open SciEd, which is just another experiential learning curriculum, highly rated. So they're looking to see, how will this fit in? So with what we already do, rather than making more work for everybody, let's see how we can make this work better for all of the students. So they're investigating and looking at real world.
So along the science vein, today I had the great fortune of attending Tufts Gap Junction program with 16 of our students. Several couldn't attend today because of conflicts. But Tufts reached out and wanted to do a veterinary sciences experience for our middle school kids. So we did our sign up and we went today. That was absolutely awesome. We investigated the cardiac system, the coronary system of animals. The kids made a model using hydraulics and liquid to see how the heart circulated blood. We went ahead and learned about the skeletal systems of animals, learned a fun fact that a certain type of whale has 13 stomachs when we talked about anatomy. 13 stomachs. I thought 4 was the number.
Seems excessive.
Right? That's right.
But it's so big.
But the kids then went on and created a model skeletal system out of Q-tips, glue, and paper. It was fantastic. The level of collaboration and communication that the kids had, the excitement and the enthusiasm for next week's session. We'll actually be in one of the medical labs at Tufts playing with beagle puppies. There'll be no photos of the beagles, though, because photos are prohibited. You have to go on site to see the beagles. The kids are fired up.
They're really cute.
And on the bus ride back, several of the kids came and said that there's room on the bus. Is there room for friends? Because we told other kids what we're doing and they want to come. So, okay, that's a win. Very excited about these partnership programs.
Related arts, we have another partnership program, actually, mostly in the visual arts section, kind of hone in on that. So with the Blackstone Valley Ed Foundation, we have partnered with them to not just do the arts in the Valley, but we also have an artist in residence. So she has come once and she'll be coming again. And she works all day with the students and with our teacher, Ms. Fitzgerald, to just kind of immerse again so students can see how what they are doing in the classroom is giving back, right? And how that is applied in the real world. So that's a pretty neat thing. We're also going to be partnering with, at the end of the school year, the whole school. The vision is for the whole school the day of our spring concert. To kind of do a showcase. So not just arts, but we're going to be bringing a lot of different things in. So keep your eyes open for that. But or beyond that day after school, where we did Pizza and Pages for the last few years, if you remember that. So we want to just keep expanding on that. Have some of the civic showcase there, have some of the art show there, bring different pieces that the kids have been doing all year long, and have that be showcased just that one time so you can kind of come through and then go over to the music concerts. So this was just another slide about the Artsy Valley and the artists in residence.
April 24th, 4 to 8 at Open Sky Alternatives in Whitensville. Student artwork from around the region will be on display and multiple pieces of work from Grafton Middle as well. So that'd be worth the time to get out there on the 24th. Mathematics, we're in our second year of full implementation of illustrative math. Illustrative math, it is one of those curricula that really shifts the cognitive load. Back when I was a math teacher, Christine was a math teacher, we would encourage our kids to do problem set after problem set after problem set. Problem sets still exist in illustrative math, but they look different. It's much more of an inquiry-based, phenomena-based type experience, problem-based mathematics, where the kids are guided on more of a learning journey. They start to identify patterns, information through their experience. And what we're seeing based on our STAR data is that the whole population in the schools' academic aptitude in math is increasing. That's one metric. MCAS is a very public metric. I think I've shared my perspective on the amount of testing that we do. If I didn't, I'm welcome to come back sometime if you're willing to listen. But the kids are learning at a high level. Our preliminary placement for 7th grade to 8th grade actually has an uptick in students recommended at this point preliminarily for participation in algebra as opposed to intro to algebra in the 8th grade. So the teachers are seeing this at the classroom level. And again, the idea of that mathematics, illustrative mathematics, it required the teachers really to think about their practice very deeply, to shift from that sage on the stage model to the guide on the side, allow the students to really carry that cognitive load and think, get that brain sweat going, if you will. And we see that in all 4 of our math classrooms, in addition to our specialized mathematics classrooms as well.
I'll just touch on that first. I was walking through a math class the other day. I taught math for over 20 years, high school and middle school. And I was like, what? What are they? Oh, I get it. And it was pretty cool. I was like, oh, okay, I get why they're doing it that way. I first walked in and I didn't say it. I was just like, why are they? Oh, okay. So yeah, it's a really neat way to just kind of look at math differently. And yeah, it was pretty cool. Anyways, that being said, our student support team, we love our student support team. We have a phenomenal team that we work with on a regular basis. We meet either weekly, sometimes every other week, depending on what's happening. And it's really a proactive approach. So we have different levels of our student support team. So we have the team level. We also talk separately about different cohorts. We have a cohort that we meet about every 3 weeks just for attendance alone. And we look at, those high level attendance issues and what can we do to help those families if needed, and how do we support those students. And then we will look at our Lighthouse program separately and what's going on with our Lighthouse kiddos and can we help them in a different way? How are things going? And we just keep we're constantly chatting about how things are going with our different student populations to make sure that those interventions, we're not reacting, but we're proactive, right? Our team is still doing their anxiety groups. So one of the things that they do is they do some screeners and then they identify who can they work with separately and they pull those students for, I believe it's 8 weeks. One just started this week with some of our 7th graders, and they go through very specific topics with them to help them to figure out how they can help with their anxiety. And they're seeing through their screenings, the pre and post screenings, quite a decrease in some of those symptoms and giving those kids some real tools. They're also phenomenal in working with us. And so one of the things we didn't put on here, but one of the things we do as far as discipline goes, is we really do work with the team. And it's not all about, what did you do wrong and how are we going to punish you, but what happened and how are we going to repair it and how are we going to move forward and how are we going to give you the skills so it doesn't happen again. And so our SST team and our counselors are just, I can't say enough about how well they work with us to get that done. They're amazing.
Along the lines of discipline as well, we're really leveraging the use of a district provided tool called Compass. I can't remember what it used to be called, but essentially it's a behavior-based intervention program. So if a student does X, there are some online modules that we can provide to the student to complete in reflection, and then we'll process that reflection afterwards. And what we're seeing is less repeat assignments of specific modules, which is fantastic. And we're also hearing from students who might be considered frequent flyers, we're hearing their processing shift to, I could have done, I think that if I had thought about this, I would have done. And that's very powerful, especially considering that the young adolescents that they are, they're impulse control driven, right? So we're starting to see the benefits of our student support team, our behavior perspective kind of merge together into a more of an individualized accountability for our kids. The future of learning. I'm exceptionally excited to be a part of this cohort with my team. Applied learning leadership is a strong focus of the foundation of all of our instructional focus when we're sitting down thinking about school improvement planning, thinking about curriculum design, thinking about assessment design and feedback mechanisms for kids. Last year, I talked a little bit about year 1 of the cohort. We're in year 2 of the cohort now. Year 2 is a much more intensive experience where we designed a pilot that we're going to focus on expanding and scaling out to our school. The focus of our pilot was on academic discourse and collaboration skills in the classroom. Our pilot team was led by Kelly Doust, Erin Hernandez, and Indra Karyabdi, and myself. We meet with colleagues from across the state, as well as those from the 1-8 Foundation, who is a tremendous partner and supporter and driver of this work across the state. We visited the Philadelphia Public Schools after having designed this preliminary pilot. And when we went into the Philadelphia Public Schools, they had selected very specific applied learning environments for us to look at. And we, through the lens of academic discourse and collaboration, identified the things that they were doing exceptionally well and brought those back to finalize our pilot plan. We ended up with 8 classroom pilot teachers in the building. And it just so happened that every single student in the building is touched by this pilot in some way and with at least one content area. And, through the provision of sentence stems and starters, there's an example up there, but we've got like 8 different sentence stem templates for kids to use. We're hearing in the classrooms higher levels of discourse, higher levels of agreement, disagreement, We're hearing fact-based evidence woven into student arguments. It's fantastic. So the plan will be, once we conclude the pilot, is go ahead and create our at Grafton Middle School We. In all classrooms, we'll utilize these strategies for discourse and collaboration and move student learning to the next level. The master plan will be to trickle this down to 6th grade and up to 9th grade and really start to influence the experience for all kids. So our products coming in from the L's will be at a higher level, and the high school will see higher yield as well. That's the secret master plan. I'm exceptionally proud of the work that our pilot team is doing. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Okay, so the next few slides, or the last few slides, I should say, really are focusing on all of the different extracurricular things that we've been able to bring to our students through partnerships with outside agencies. So STEAM Unfiltered was March 12th, I believe, at WPI. So we partnered with the Blackstone Valley Ed Foundation. We had over 40 students attend up at WPI. It was an afternoon event. They did everything. You'll see one of our kiddos there using sutures. They had to build. So on the left, you see foam build. The picture in the middle is actually kiddos with somebody from Tufts who was teaching them about like how to hear heart sounds and things like that. They actually had to figure out what heart sound they were hearing. And they also did a slime. One of them was making slime, and the other one was a windmill experience, and they could pick two of the 5. So our kids had a really great time. We did a post survey, and a lot of them were like, "This was so exciting. We're really excited about this field. We want more information." So we hope to continue our partnership with the Blackstone Valley Ed Foundation. And we really appreciate it. I actually am part of the Blackstone Valley Ed Foundation. I run this program for the middle school. So we were really fortunate to be able to bring this to them. And WPI actually gave us a grant to run this. So it was wonderful. We're hoping next year to have it during the school day and be quite a bit longer because really the kids would have loved to do more. We wanted it to be bigger, but we had to start somewhere. So we'll see how that goes. We have the Dollar Scholar Program coming up. So I think we talked about this a little bit last year. So last year, we reached out to the United Way, and they actually came to our building for a half day, and we did 2 different half days for all the 8th grade girls. We did one team one day, one team the other day. It is a specific program just for middle school girls. And this year, we're able to partner with them. We're going to do a full day experience. They provide busing. So we can bring up to 90 students. We do have that open right now for girls in 8th grade to apply. If there are more slots open once the 8th grade is kind of, once we've given them their deadline, then we will open it up to 7th grade. But we will be taking 90 of them over to Clark University on the 13th. And there's a lot of local women that they volunteer the day to put on all different types of events for the kiddos. And so they'll do everything from smart budget planning to how to invest your money to, what is debits and credits, things that, we maybe as adults get, but they don't necessarily always get that financial literacy day to day like we used to. They don't even know what a check is. I don't even know if people use checks anymore. But it's that kind of thought, and giving them, what is your money really worth? And I think it's super powerful for these kiddos at this age because they don't see a lot of money. They see credit cards and they see tapping. And so I think money to them is very, it's kind of out there. They don't really understand the concept. So programs like this are very helpful for budgeting and exploring and giving them real world, like this is what it's all about. So I'm excited to bring them to that. I had to put this in. We were thinking about this today, and I was like, holy moly, I didn't put Washington in there. So just wanted to highlight, we have given over almost $13,000 away. I actually think the number might be a smidge higher. It might be a little over 13 now in scholarship to bring students with us. So we want to make sure that this opportunity is for anybody, whether they can afford it or not. We've already opened up the 7th grade group, but we are bringing, I think it's 185 students this year, so 4 busloads. Nations Classroom, Oh yeah, your husband's coming with us. Very excited. She gets a few days off, right? You're welcome.
Second year.
And yeah, so Nations Classroom is really great. So for every 40 students, they give us a scholarship. So we actually we were able to scholarship 8 half scholarships through their funding as well. So definitely wanted to highlight that. They're a great company that we've been working with. They also afford us 4 students to lay wreaths at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. So we have those where we've got a 4-way tie for number 4. So I haven't announced our 4 people yet. So we have top 3 and then a 4-way tie for the 4th kiddo. So we need to put those 4 back out there and get one more round of voting to try and get that 4th kiddo. And so we'll have 4 students again this year that lay the wreath. And it's really powerful. They have to dress up. So there's a special dress code. The whole school is there at the same time. So they make it so we're all there so we can all see that. And it's pretty neat. We also have the students create the logo for the T-shirt. So on the left-hand side, that is this year's logo. That's the winning logo for the group. So yeah, so it's a fun event. There's a lot, it's a lot. And we have all of our volunteers. So we very much appreciate our volunteers that come with us. We have our parent volunteers and our teachers that join us as well. So it's a fun trip. I think lastly,
before I talk about the Nova Bio Club, I just wanted to say thank you to Christine for leadership and taking initiative with so much from the day-to-day grind of the role of assistant principal. I would be drowning without you, but also these additional experiences. Your leadership at the Blackstone Valley Ed Foundation is tremendous. Partnerships that you built is just simply amazing.
Thanks.
So thank you to you. 2 members of the committee, specifically, Ms. Kilbasinski and Ms. Dekas, for the work behind the scenes. Ms. Kilbasinski stepped up and helped us with our math team this year. And I'm not sure if we're going to make national championships or not, but she provided a service by being present on Tuesday afternoons throughout the competition season, preparing the kids for their exams. And Stella, you continue to be a force when we're looking for support to help out our teachers. We don't have a formal PTO organization, but we've got a tremendous troop behind folks like you who raise funds, collect donations, and provide our teachers with thank yous every now and then. It's truly from the heart. Thank you to both of you.
I recruit the URs here to help.
I run a lot with the DC to show.
Yeah. Right.
I just send the emails.
Theora was a big force helping with the fundraising.
Yeah.
Here for DC for sure.
Big time. We have so many other parent volunteers and partners and community members that are really supporting our mission. It's truly special. Another special piece is the Nova Bio Club from BVT. Some student leaders created this club in STEM and biomedical exploration. They reached out to me to say, hey, would it be okay if we solicited interest and ran a biomedical STEM-based activity? I'm a why not kind of guy, so I said, sure. We put out signups to kids to participate. After a description went out, we filled the 30 slots immediately. We now have a wait list of over, I think the wait list is up around 50 kids.
Wow.
This group is just starting out. They couldn't commit to do multiple days or multiple experiences of each session. So we said, we're going to cap it at 30. But they're the student leaders, and one of them's a Grafton middle school alum. They're just exceptionally proud of creating a legacy type project that they can partner with local middle schools. And we are kind of their pilot. So I look forward to seeing that. It's going to be a 5-session experience, 4 sessions of classroom and hands-on experiences, followed by a showcase type experience where the kids will take all 4 skills that they've learned along the way and apply them into one project. And we're trying to coordinate that experience to occur during our showcase on the day of our spring concert. So there'll be a lot of academic celebration, and this is just another example of that student leadership and student voice. The final piece, which we didn't have a slide for, but I just wanted to acknowledge members of the Principals Advisory. We're 37 members strong this year, and one example of their project leadership was the creation of a student recognition program where monthly we utilize one of the themes of Grafton Middle School, and we just ask teachers to acknowledge one student from a specific class. We started with period 1 classes, went to period 2, and we're going to do period 3 this month, where we call the kids down. I bought a button maker, which was super fun. Made buttons for the kids, and
Just a little face.
but it was created by kids for kids. Another group is working with Betsy Labonte and Frank Rothwell on cafeteria redesign. If you've been in the cafeteria, it's a cafeteria. They're looking at flexible seating options, more decoration, and they're also talking with Betsy, who's been exceptional about meal planning and options. Through that conversation, she's doing a really nice opening day of baseball special lunch. Fenway Franks and sausages and popcorn.
I got my sweatshirt ready to go.
Yeah, Red Sox fans are allowed, but we'll celebrate Yankees fans. But so the student voice, and sorry, I am a Yankees fan. The student voice and the student leadership element is important, and I'm hoping that influences student participation in student council and other leadership experiences at the high school by giving them the opportunity to have voice. And finally, before we turn for questions, direct questions, if you have any, I'd like to thank all the members of our GMS school council. It's made up of a number of parents, educators, and students. We have 5 students, I think 8 parents, and 4 regularly attending teachers participating through either virtual experiences or in-session experiences. It's nice to have that support, and more importantly, it's nice to have the interest in support because you sit on that side of the table, and sometimes the interest appears to come from different angles. We're seeing real meaningful, impactful experiences from those who are involved in our community. So that's about all that we've got.
I'm sure we have more, but
That we could go for 5 hours.
we
Thank you both, not just for a great presentation, but just a really engaging community. It sounds like it's incredible what you've been able to build at GMS. You guys have the kids for the least amount of time of any of the schools, really, and you've made it so meaningful, and you've built a really nice community. So
Thank you.
we
If have a
appreciate that.
restructure, we would love 6th grade.
Good to know.
I don't want to
Throwing that out there.
Okay, yeah. Let's,
putting it out into the universe.
does anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
Hi, Chris. So I have a question in regards to the applied learning leadership discovery. Remember, you and I actually spoke about it that each classroom is not going to be like an island type thing, right? That kids go from one classroom to the other and feel the same rules and such apply. When you implement that fully, will that translate into grades as well? Like in every classroom, homework and class participation is worth 15%. And you know what I'm saying? Because right now, each classroom kind of does their own thing. And so each kid has to learn based on that classroom. Is it worth 20%? Is it worth 0? Is it worth 10? Is it worth 15? Is test in this class 40? You know what I'm saying? So is that going to be part of that implementation?
It's a great question, and it's also a great loaded question. But the idea here is to identify instructional practices. And down the road, I think we're going to be getting into deeper conversations about those assessment practices and what grades truly mean. I am not and the faculty and staff know this, I'm not a traditional grades-based person. I think it, in some ways, can penalize the slower learner, the kid who earns a 40 on a quiz and a 60 on a quiz, but by unit test time, they've got it and they're banging a 95. Are they really a 72 because of that 40, or are they a 95? And that incorporates in the conversation about those learning practices that we're measuring as a part of the grade. Is a grade an academic measure, or is it a measure of a good student? I think we need to have that conversation. We're not ready at this point. So down the line, I'm not advocating directly to the camera for standards-based reporting at the middle level, not advocating for that. But I do believe that we need to focus on really finely tuned, discrete elements as a faculty so we can be consistent across the board down the line. We're looking at this from this pilot from a perspective of what are the best practice for instruction and learning that we need to standardize across our school.
And how do you assess that?
And then the assessment
Right.
piece comes in. So the conversation is very large and it's a multi-year conversation, but I do think that does come in at some point down the line.
And then this is not a question, but just to thank you, because I've noticed that every student that comes to you for a club idea, that club gets created. And that is wonderful. I've seen Bird Club, D&D Club.
The birders.
The birders are amazing. Don't knock the birders, okay?
No, they're the bird boys. They want to be
Bird
called.
boys. No,
They are okay. So the Bird Club is amazing, but every club, and I've seen it throughout the years, even from when my oldest son was there. To every club that comes to you, you're like, yeah, let's go, let's do it, which is
Thank
Great.
you. Thank you for recognizing that. And I think it's more of a thank you to the kids for being comfortable and confident in identifying a passion that they have. The more we can do to support that, the better.
Well, and I truly believe that's part of the reason why the Nova Bio Club kids came to Grafton,
right.
because our Grafton student knew that we're open to that, right? And we want to give these experiences to kids whenever we can. And so we made it work for them.
Yeah.
You know? And it is important, right? And all these outside things are what, that's what drives students to stay. And that's what makes them remember.
Yeah.
And that's what's important.
It also allows us to refuel ourselves. I could have done so many other things today in the afternoon instead of spending 2 hours at Tufts, right? However, the experience sitting there with the kids, looking at them smile and giggle and check their Snapchats every now and then under the desk, it was wonderful. I can take care of the work I didn't get done tonight or tomorrow, but being able to provide the kids with what they want and what they need, that's really what our mission should be. So when we sit down and talk about big picture pieces, community identity and the like, these are the things that we should be thinking of. And when our teachers get strapped and taxed, these experiences allow them to refuel and recharge. When added pressure is put on them, that's of the negative, it can really take away from the overall experience. So I urge all the moms and dads and caregivers out there to think holistically about our identity and the experience, and really consider the impact that we're having on every single child in every single day. That's our job. That's our mission. And I mean, it's kind of why I do what I do, and I believe it's why Christine does what she does. But thank you for acknowledging that. It's special to be able to say, why not?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me borrow your glasses.
Hey. Anybody else need cheaters?
Just wait.
I had two things I wanted to say. One, I really wanted to give a shout out to your student support team. I feel like middle school is it's a tough time for every single kid developmentally, and they are really catching those kids before they fall through the cracks. They're doing such an amazing job. I've heard about some of the things they're doing I've spoken to some of your staff, but also from some students, and it feels really intentional and not like this is not a lip service program. Like you are really, really trying to help those kids and prevent issues down the line. And I just love it.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say, I loved what you were just saying about grades. And I have a lot of feelings about grades. I used to teach middle school science. And when I was a teacher, middle school is a weird time for grades because it's sort of that time when it's like, oh, they're starting to be like, worry about college, like don't forget, this is important for college. But it's also the time when I feel like a lot of kids can potentially check out of specific academics. I remember I would have 7th or 8th grade kids come into my classroom and they would be like, I hate science. And I'm like, dude, you're 12. Like, what's up? And like, I really felt like part of my job was to show them the joy in science. And it's like, this is our opportunity. You're going to go on and take those better classes, those higher level classes, if you're able to, hold on to that joy. And I feel like your new math curriculum also provides that a lot, because it's sort of like math is really dry at the beginning and then it gets fun. And this is making it fun earlier. This is making it fun earlier. I love math. I absolutely love math. But it's like, I used to tell my daughter, like, you got to get through the memorization to get to the fun stuff. And it's like, you guys are bringing that fun stuff like much earlier. And I love that. So anyway, love it.
Yeah, to that end, I think it's an attribute that's been brought to the district through the leadership of Jen Mannion, who you're going to hear about teaching and learning in a little bit, and leadership from Dr. Cummings, as well as Mrs. McDonald on the special ed side, all the members. But the real acute focus on high quality instructional materials coming in, a lot of those have embedded in them very high level practice shifts. And while the conversation about grades will be very important, the mindset shift about what teaching and learning looks like in the classroom, that foundation is being relayed right now. And, we're seeing that in science with the Open SciEd pilot and our science team, which is exceptionally enthusiastic. I mean, curriculum change usually brings about eye rolls and groans. This team has rolled their sleeves up and they're already 3 years down the road in their thinking, but we have to slow them down so that way it can be implemented effectively. So all the support that we're getting from the district level and the curriculum side is exceptionally helpful. And it's going to really get at, your point. How do we build a more distinct love of learning as opposed to love of content? If we can get them to learn and they love learning, the content's not going to be a barrier. So I'm just really thankful for the cohesion and the team that we have to get us there.
Awesome.
Thank you for the acknowledgments.
I'll be quick. Thank you both. It's so wonderful to see you. And it's great to hear all of what's going on at GMS. I particularly, I just have to say, my father was an educator in the Philadelphia Public Schools for 30 years. So that shout out just kind of warms my heart. They do a lot of great things and get a bad rap because they're a city school, but there's a lot of good things going on in Philly. Completely irrelevant to this conversation. But shout out to Mr. Ort. But the one thing, several things that really struck out, kind of piggybacking on what Christy said, it's also I heard over and over again about students, it can tell that is the driving force in what you're doing. Students are in every piece of this presentation and it's the full student. I'm so glad to hear about, social emotional, but in a meaningful way, not just, again, I think somebody said lip service, not just lip service. We're seeing what that means. When you can get rid of that anxiety, then they're able to learn better. And because they don't have that, then they're able to do that discourse. To have discourse in a middle school classroom isn't easy because it's very much, hey, I want to fit in. Don't want anyone to notice me. I don't want to stand out. Because you're doing all that work, now these students are able to learn and grow. And finally, just a shout out. You mentioned the clubs. I also know you're stepping up too, Mr. Star, aren't you? Leading the weightlifting club or something? I can tell, obviously, strength.
Unified Strength and Conditioning.
I mean, clearly. So thank you for doing that too, though. That's but just stepping up and being there, both of you, is really important to see, and then everybody. And I know that they're not here, but your teachers and your staff at that school, I mean, they love being there. I remember when I used to go to the open houses, I was like, wow, these people love middle school, and you kind of have to love middle school. But they sure do. And that's amazing. And now it feels like all the pieces are coming together. And maybe because, and even building pieces too, right? And I love to hear if you're able to reimagine that cafeteria, that'll be really cool. But the roof. The roof. The roof, we finally got, an HVAC, right? So we'll have,
Yeah.
we're getting there, right?
The roof
So roofs, we have not
fire.
forgotten. Yeah.
No.
But I mean, that is,
Forget.
see, that's important thing. So we have all these great things. It has to happen in a building that is safe and healthy and a place where it can foster. So thanks for all your amazing work. I guess I didn't really have any questions. I probably just wanted to give my dad a shout out, I guess. But
That's a lot.
no, I appreciate both of you so much. And just, there's a lot of joy in this presentation. And I know that's infectious from off that bus to on the bus again. So thank you.
I want to build off the strength and conditioning thing. I don't know, most people probably don't know this, but Mr. Starr earned an invite to my son's bar mitzvah because of his work, strength and conditioning. He was like, can we invite Mr. Starr? And I was like, your principal? And he's like, you mean my strength and conditioning coach? So anyway, but that's the joy, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're an important part of his life, not just because you're running his school, but because he's had that interaction with you, right? So
Fantastic. Thank you.
There was definitely some sad tears today when he said he had to take the bus home, and there's no strength and conditioning today.
Yeah.
And
I know.
half day tomorrow, so there's no clubs tomorrow.
Yeah.
We had to cancel because of weather, and I had several
Yeah, lots of
send me videos of them at home doing a work.
Oh, I love that.
awesome.
Oh, that's funny. So
Like, oh. That's fun. It's fun, but this little AI generated graphic
It's kind
does
of a
not show the benefits of strength and conditioning. However,
It doesn't do either.
Ms. Martellio looked as if she attended every session.
who made the graphic?
I may have made it.
Awesome stuff. Just thank you both so much for not just this evening, but everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Yes. And thank your community for us too.
Yeah, the teachers
Yeah,
are
you've done-
exceptionally supportive of all the work that you're doing, and for the great community of Grafton for continued support and focus. They are happy to be working with these kids, and they're an exceptional team.
We have a great thing going at Grafton Middle School. Thank you.
Let's keep it rolling.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
both.
you.
Thanks, Ken.
When I just get her also, I'm in the SC. I'll take.
While you're
Because it's going to be so quick.
Just gonna take me.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All right.
Museums. Fine.
Do you need a minute?
I need a second because
Okay.
I can't remember.
Can you tell a joke, Christy?
No. But I can talk about Paula Conlon. The first year she started, I had her as a teacher
Amazing.
at Grafton
awesome.
Public Schools, and she was the first teacher to ever say to reference her as Paula. Don't say Mrs. Conlon. That's what she would say. And she'd walk around with a pencil in the back of her
Their
hair.
hair.
And she was amazing.
That's a really nice memory.
That was wonderful.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
won.
Yeah. I didn't like calling her Paula, so I called her Miss Paula. That's what my parents always said.
Did you say, hey, Paula?
No, because the kids don't know
Did you
that
watch
song.
Nobody does. I think she watched Dead Poet Society more than anybody else in the world.
I could see that.
She was.
You watched it more? No.
I was an English teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, we watched it so.
Oh my gosh. So not
Eddie Half Day.
Okay.
sorry.
That's all right.
I can talk while I get prepared. I have a kind of what I need help with. So we're jumping ahead just to the MASC update that I asked to put on the agenda. I sort of talked about it 2 weeks ago, but I have an update. So the update is this. On Monday, I know it was Day on the Hill, where we have the opportunity to meet with representatives and hear about legislation updates. And I confirmed that we will have a meeting with Senator Moore, which is great. Representative Meridian isn't available. He did, of course, offer to meet with us another time. But I just wanted us to, and I don't know, just think about what we want to talk about. Obviously, I mean, top of mind is funding for VILA. I did go to, and I'm hoping this can fit under the agenda here. Last week, I went to an advocacy call. It was sponsored by the Massachusetts Association of the Mass Teachers Association. And they were talking a lot about how to advocate for the funding and how there's a lot of funding that is available that is just not trickling to us, to use the old trickle down theory that messed all of us up forever, but and so some of that is that fair share tax
Yep.
that we all advocated for. I mean, Grafton's not saying really any of that. And they are, and I know we talked to Senator Moore several years ago. He came into the select board. It didn't go well. And I will recommend that when we're talking to him, we push hard. I've been thinking just very strongly, especially hearing a lot, obviously, of what's going on in the community. If you also think of Representative Meridian's districts, he represents us. He represents Upton, which is going for a big override as well, and he represents Northbridge, which we have given up, and they will admit that too. So I'm very passionate about pushing back on the state more than we have done. We have done it. And I don't want, there was a memory that came up in my phone of Rebecca and I going to a hearing this time last year, advocating for funding. But we have an opportunity to be with Senator Moore next Monday. So on our own, just let's think about, how I'll be kinder, but how we want to just speak with him and
Have to be kinder.
advocate, right? For what we need. And if he's pushing back, he needs to help too. Like if we have to take what we've been taking, he needs to take what he has not been taking. And after that, though, I am very excited. And I know I mentioned this before, but Division 4, which we are all in, is hosting the very first post celebration after Day on the Hill. I can't find the name of the restaurant at that, and I apologize for that. But we can go and celebrate that. So hopefully if you're coming, it starts at 4:00. I will lead you because I'm in charge. So we can get there and hopefully just enjoy some meet and greet and just getting to share with other school committee members and helping each other. So that was my MASC update. I'm pretty excited about next Monday. Oh, and my final one is on April 1st, I believe. Division 4 is also sponsoring a lunch and learn at noon on how to get an override pass. So I hope I will definitely, if you can't make it, we'll have a recording. It's being hosted by Dan Gale, who used to work with us and has helped pass an override over there in Hudson. And he is going to present to us kind of some tips and tricks that he learned along the way and anything we can do to help learn. So I'm very excited about that. Came from a lot of people asking for that because, again, Grafton is not alone in this need for an override, and people want to know how to do it. So thanks to Dan. Hope to see you guys there.
Is that in person or?
It is a virtual event. It's a lunch and learn. It's on Zoom, and they usually record them too. So yeah, very excited about that. Good. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. All right. Welcome, Jen Mannion.
I'm thinking of the connection between override and appetite. Like,
Cool.
but thank you for having me. It's nice to be here again, as usual. I'm excited to give you just a quick overview of what we've been working on in the curriculum department. And I use the term department lightly these days.
I'm going to ask you to speak up a tiny bit because we've had audio problems with people watching.
Scooch forward.
Yeah. I think you're near the new microphone, but
All right.
Sing out.
I don't want anyone to miss anything.
Great. So our work is driven by the district strategic plan, federal and state regulations, the expertise and needs of the staff here in Grafton. So I'm just going to give you a blush of some of the things we've been working on in relation to those things. And I recently submitted our progress report for our Student Opportunities Act plan, which are strategies that really mirror what's in our district strategic plan. We choose evidence-based practices from that plan to focus on in terms of our goals and then report out on them. So that seemed like a nice lens to frame this presentation to you on, since I've just done that work. It's kind of fresh. So our 3 evidence-based practices for that plan were inclusive curriculum adoption process, supporting curriculum implementation, and authentic post-secondary planning. The third one I don't speak to as often about, but I'm looking forward to sharing how we're doing and what I've learned there and how I'll continue to support that. So we've talked about this in the past, a little bit of the why, but I figured just a quick refresh on the push to adopt HQIMs at the state level and the work we've been doing here in Grafton as a result. The state published a new vision for student learning, I believe, 2 years ago, and really focuses on equity and access and making sure all students access curriculum that's at grade level or beyond. So that's become the hub of the work that we're doing. And you see that in terms of HQIM adoption across the state. So first part of the why is that equity of access piece, particularly with subgroups who our data shows have not had similar performance comparative to their peers. And for me, inclusive curriculum also is students seeing themselves represented in the curriculum resources, literature, things like that. So I included that photo. That's Karen Mealy, our department head at the English department. And we were fortunate to be the recipients of a generous donation from Dawn Anderson, who a lot of you know as a town moderator. Through a series of events, she was able to donate a significant amount of books curated by Scholastic, who has focused on this lens of making sure we represent different populations, different students, different voices, different perspectives, and made that donation to the Grafton Public Schools. So my office looks a little bit like a fortress right now because there's just boxes and boxes, and they're labeled by grade span. And this doesn't usually happen, but she gave us things for grades K through 12. And so I reached out to department heads and grade level leaders, and Miss Mealy was so excited because she's developing a new elective, a new reading elective, and was looking for contemporary literature to sort of boost the level of reading again and get kids engaged. So she was thrilled to be able to pick through, she's a kid in candy store, be able to pick through the boxes and really support that elective. So that was fantastic. An additional part of our why is a big aim of these HQIMs is to reduce teacher decision fatigue. And I use the word aim because initially in implementation, we don't achieve that. Initially, it drives just a different kind of fatigue because teachers have to learn a whole new resource. It's basically learning a new curriculum because it doesn't reflect the scope and sequence that they designed when they designed their own curriculum here in Grafton. Does still reflect alignment with the standards, but they have to unpack the units, internalize all the lessons before they can become designers themselves of how to differentiate and scaffold for students. So we're only in year 2, so that's still taking the bulk of teachers' cognitive load. But another benefit is that it creates coherence grade to grade. So it really, we're setting each grade up for the next in terms of students learning routines and language, and then expectations and the standards as an intentional spiral to what they're learning. So we hit that cohesion piece. Alignment with cognitive science. I've been reflecting on this a lot because I think that this has been something that has driven my it's the drive behind my work. I think since I started as an educator long ago, I've just always been curious about how to make work more inclusive, learning more inclusive, engaging, impactful. Knowing we like doctors call our work our practice in education because we're in a research-based profession. So there's always going to be something new to learn based on the science. So I feel like it's my responsibility to make sure our students are receiving instruction and use resources that align with what we currently know about learning in the brain. So these HQIMs are curated to make sure that they align. We use things like EdReport and Curate to evaluate them, to make sure they align with evidence-based practices and that they really focus on knowledge building. If you've been around a long time, you know, education often does this pendulum shift. So we went away from knowledge building and right back to knowledge building because we realized, oh, that's an important part of the educational experience for our learners. In terms of data reliability, we see this actually starting to play out. I'm going to speak to it a little bit more on a further slide, but it allows for teachers to speak to each other when we're looking at evidence of learning in terms of what does it mean, what's going well. So we need to build on that. And then where do we see a need for growth and what can we do about that? So all the variables are more controlled. And that data analysis is what drives typically our professional development. We help identify what do we need instructionally or in terms of resources from that analysis. So it's nice when that becomes tighter. This one I love. We're always looking to engage students in the productive struggle. This is not new. We want students to be appropriately challenged so that they are experiencing that year's growth that every child deserves and not working at their frustrational level. And this picture on the right is from a high school PLTW Intro to Engineering class. And I feel like this photograph just captures what we mean by perseverance and grit in terms of student learning. There were no parameters around whether they had to work alone or with peers. And I watched students take different approaches in the classroom. So I think what's important to remember is that when we are appropriately challenging students, we're also addressing all the soft skills of social emotional learning. So learning to work through, learning to collaborate, learning to communicate is all a piece of this work. So I just had such respect for the learners in that room. In terms of where we are in our implementation processes, that we adopted EL education K-6, illustrative math 6-12. We're in year 2 of Project Lead the Way, K-8. And in terms of the phases, we're not really approaching phase 3 yet because it really just takes the first 3 years for teachers to teach the full curriculum, experience each unit at least one time before they can really talk about what to tweak or adjust. That being said, where teachers are feeling more confident and comfortable, they are starting to make decisions around, I keep calling it the Grafton Way. I think I might have got that from Paul Majorano at the high school. But how we're going to use this resource in Grafton so that our students achieve to the level we believe they can. We did some expansion this year in terms of adding Project Lead the Way through Intro to Engineering at the high school. And as you've heard Mr. Starczewski mention, we're in year 1 of DKP in 8th grade. And I was thinking, oh boy, there's going to be a lot of repeats between my presentation and Mr. Starczewski and Mrs. Mortelio, but I think that's really a good thing because I think it shows there's an authentic collaboration going on among instructional leaders in the district. It's great when people are working toward the same goals and supporting each other and getting there. In terms of 26-27 planning, you heard them mention a little bit about Open SciEd, and we've been working toward becoming more focused on phenomena-based instruction and performance tests in science, particularly at the secondary level, just because our elementary teachers' plates are full with math and English implementation right now. And our middle school teachers really were the catalyst in getting this work going. And I have to just share how much I respect and admire the middle school teachers' process. They've been very slow and mindful in terms of the steps that they've been taking, not wanting to rush in and adopt something, to really be mindful of the work they've done in the past. Their curriculum is strong, so we don't want to throw it out, baby with the bathwater. But we also know that through applied learning, the hours and hours of research that go into creating these applied learning programs, we can't replicate at the district level. So I love that their lens is, let's explore it. We talked about we can make it the floor, not the ceiling, for whatever work we do here in Grafton, but still hesitant to go through the grant process because that locks us into their process. And we didn't necessarily want to be locked into somebody else's process at this point. And so I had started looking for outside vendors to support us in the phenomena-based learning piece for teachers. And when our liaison through OSE and 1-8, they consistently communicate and reach out, how can we help, what can we do? And when she heard that I was looking to contract with an outside provider, she said, call me. So I did, and they offered to split the cost of PD with us, let us forego the grant process for now, align with the cohort of people who are receiving the grant. So we'll be with this next cohort. So our teachers will participate in the professional development and pilot a unit of OSE. That will give them more time to process and plan and make decisions. If they decide OSE is the way to go, we can then apply for the grant in February next year, get the materials, continue coaching in PD, and we won't have to start at go. We will already be in line with this cohort, and that networking piece is huge. So it feels like a real win-win. I'm really appreciative of OSE's generosity and trying to meet us where we are and create a partnership with us. So that's exciting. We are members of the Blackstone Valley Education Foundation. So Dr. Connolly and I had worked together around putting together a PD offering for the high school, because it's not just about adopting a resource from a publisher. It's also about fine-tuning the curriculum that currently exists in Grafton, so that we're aligning with what we know from cognitive research. So she's put together a proposal to engage our science teachers next year in that process. So doing some similar learning. Tracy Kalo is also doing incredible work in terms of working with her team on cognitive rigor and academic expectations. So I think there'll be a nice alignment next year in that regard. And additionally, we had done some work with French River early on, and we had really developed a nice partnership with them. And I was able to connect them with the Blackstone Valley Curriculum Consortium. So now we're doing things where we're purchasing and then expanding and offering seats to other districts so that we can expand our offerings to teachers because they can attend PD in other districts and vice versa. So we had a really good partnership with them for our speech and language pathologists. They've done some great work for our paraeducators. And in looking at our data, we know our students with disabilities and our students who are learning English really need to be the crux of our focus next year. So I'm partnering with French River to do PD this summer for teachers in those two areas, and then hopefully continue on in the school year. In terms of our outcome data, we just see this early evidence of change, which is really exciting in terms of collaboration across and among buildings. So we had an example where one team in one elementary school looked at the other team's data in the other elementary school, same grade level, and reached out to their building principals and said, can we get together with them? We need to know what they're doing because their data indicates they have figured something out, and we kind of need to collaborate on that. So that came from the teachers, which is, I feel like that's when we're getting there, like really are capturing the energy of champions for kids there. And then this professional development day, our 6th grade math teachers and our 7th grade math teachers are going to be working together to talk about vertical alignment because we're really trying to push and continue to get more and more students an authentic algebra experience in 8th grade. So we're doing some shifting of scope and sequence work. So it's really cool to see it all coming together. In terms of persistent disparities, we continue to talk about our students with disabilities and our multilingual learners. We use lots of data points. One is a heat map that we use in terms of our accountability data. So you can just see overall, I might have a slide in here on some data just to show there's general growth overall, reading and math at every grade span. But we have these subgroups of kids who are not showing the same growth. So to us, it's not just about equity and access, it's about equity and achievement. So I feel like we're really going to fine tune our efforts and make sure that we're focusing in on that moving forward. There are impacts from budget, of course. So right now, it's Kristen Perrone and me who are the department. Fortunately, we have great instructional leadership at every building. So really principals are partnering and doing a lot of work around this. But we amended our plan to kind of reflect the shifts in who's doing what, knowing you could permanently lose the additional for the 2 positions that are open right now in my department. So in terms of implementation, it changes our review cycle because we just don't have the capacity to stick to the pace that we had set out when it was a department of 6. And it limits the amount of hand-on coaching, content specific that we can do. So you lose a little bit of that proactive approach to supporting teaching and learning without those roles. But we have come up with some mitigation strategies. Smart people wanting to do great things always get together and figure it out. So we've been leveraging our ESSA grants and our competitive grants to support teaching and learning and teaching teachers how to use AI for efficiency's sake in terms of planning. So if we're talking about meeting the needs of students with a certain profile of learning, how to use AI to support your lesson internalization and design and scaffolding so that we're better able to meet the needs of those students. And then I had to give a shout out to this group of people because one of the things we're doing as a mitigation strategy is since we don't have a humanities coordinator for elementary teachers, we are using ESSA funding to provide stipends for what we're calling curriculum leads. So these are the people who stepped up to be curriculum leads at Millbury Street, North Grafton, and South Grafton. So we meet once a month and then they facilitate the work of their team. And the collaboration that happens in those monthly meetings is incredible. I wish I could record it to hear I don't really have to say anything. I just sit and kind of let them go and listen and ask questions because they know what the work is, they know what needs to be done, and they know how to get it done. And they're really eager to share what's working with each other and to learn from each other. So super proud of that group of people, and I'm thankful and grateful for that group, and hope we can expand that model. Additional professional learning highlight is, I mentioned this earlier, we've had custom designed professional learning for our paraeducators this year. So people in their first 2 years in the district are participating in Optimal Push. They have their 4th session tomorrow, 5th one in May. And it's really about how do you foster independence. So you scaffold, and then how do you know when to remove those scaffolds so that you're fostering independence rather than reliance on the support. And then this is a piece where I have not done a lot of work as curriculum director to date, but I think I'll become more involved in this next year. In my role, I'm the one who's able to attend all the things and go to the networking meetings, do the research, and then help design what's needed. I can listen to staff about what the barriers are to the work and try to design solutions. So I'm going to start to partner with the middle school and high school primarily to see how I can support the work around the career pathways that students are engaging in. We know these increase engagement, they increase attendance rates because they make the learning more hands-on, more relevant, more authentic to students. And we also want to increase our dual enrollments and our students taking AP and IB exams. And all that counts as part of our accountability data. The pictures at the bottom are students I had the privilege to speak with at different events and showcases. And the young lady in the bottom left corner there, she just blew me away talking about what her internship did to reignite her passion for learning, her interest in school. She could see the connection between the learning she was doing here in school and the learning she did in work-based environment. It just came out of her pores, like her enthusiasm for next phase of life for herself. And I don't think she had that vision prior to her work-based experience. So I can really see the value of it. And then the middle picture is another intro to engineering piece where students were using pretty complex software to design solutions. I pretended to know what they were talking about as I was asking them questions, but it was really cool to see that they knew what they were talking about and could see how this could parlay into careers in the future. And starting as early as middle school in terms of civics engagement and career development and pathways and what that looks like. So lots of work to be done with the administrators at each building and figuring out ways that I can support that further. What got me interested partially was this little bit of a dip. Last year, we had 45 students participating in Pathways. It dipped to 21 this year. So I had a very informal conversation with Sharon Buckley, and then we have a much more formal conversation with high school, middle school admin and Sharon and myself to figure out, okay, what can we do to tighten our processes so that we really do see that increase. Of the 21, 2 were low income. So we want to see those students subgroups really, again, having equity and access to this kind of programming. And then Sharon expressed concern about, this is something I never would have thought of, now that community colleges are free for people who have never earned a degree, there's much more demand for professors. So the concern that will limit the offerings for dual enrollment for high schools. So we'll have to, I love a good challenge. I hope we know a problem exists and we can set about and how to address it and come up with solutions. So that'll be an important part of our work. Another part of our plan, both strategic plan and student opportunity act plan, is increasing family engagement. So it's been exciting to develop and implement our LPAC this year. And we quickly went from 4 to 11 members. The snow did us wrong. So we are down a meeting. So we will be electing board members in our next meeting rather than our prior one. But it's great to see that partnership grow. Looking forward to the input, feedback, and collaboration around how to best meet the needs of our multilingual learners, and not just students, but in our community. This is part of the SOA plan, and it's not necessarily part of my purview. So I have the data because of what's shared with me for developing these plans. And then I was able to collaborate with Frank Rothwell to put together this piece. I figured I'd share it because I have the information with you, just in terms of growth in the diverse representation among our staff. A lot of this is through our paraeducator workforce and thinking about why, thinking about the pipeline and how we create a better pipeline into Grafton in terms of faculty and what are the barriers to that. And it's a good thing that we don't have a lot of turnover in Grafton, but it limits opportunities for new hires. So it's slower to increase diversity because of some of those. I don't want to say issues. They're not issues, just factors is the word. It's getting late. So in the past, I've given you lots and lots of data. And I figured you can always ask me to come back and present just specifically on data. So I eliminated most of that for this, but I just took a sample. This is 6th grade reading, just so you can see this is really what it looks like star data wise for math and reading across almost every grade span. You see a dip 1st grade to 2nd grade reading, and I was working with Kristen Perone around the data. I've also been working closely with Steve Wilshire and the literacy specialists at Millbrae Street because the state has changed accountability in terms of compliance and what I have to submit for reporting and evaluation of our program. So we've been doing a lot of deep dives into our data, which I love. And Kristen noted that a lot of our 2nd graders are taking the STAR literacy test for the first time because they take the early literacy test until they hit a certain threshold. So the cool thing is that you see that recovery 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. And it's nice to see the growth from 23, 24 to 25, 26. And we're only in winter. We haven't even done the spring assessment yet. So expect to continue to see that growth. So our teachers are doing a great job despite implementing new resources. That's my overview. Long, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
That was amazing. Good stuff happening for
I
sure.
didn't really give a shout out to our ESL teachers who are doing a ton of work with data collection and intervention and collaboration around tier 2, what it looks like and how to support tier 1. So I could do a whole separate presentation on that. But our literacy specialists are doing great things. So lots going on across the district.
Great. Thank you, Jen. Question? Yeah.
Yeah, just a couple. Thank you, Jen, so much. It's always great to see you. Love to hear all the great work you and your small team are doing. So thanks for that. I had 2 questions, if I can read my writing. You talked first about the knowledge. We were talking about the pendulum swinging, and I have definitely seen that and totally agree. But I was wondering when it swings back, what changes? Because obviously we step away from something and then we go back to it. Is it the same thing? Has there been tweaks to it? And do you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
I didn't. Okay.
Yep. And I'm going to show my age and tell you, I was a child of the 70s when we were done phonics. And then in the 80s, we went to whole language.
Yep.
And then in the 90s, we realized that was a mistake. So I think that continues to happen. I think we're also a bandwagon profession. So we jump on and then we fall off and then, the next thing comes. So I feel like this is the thing I learned from Jay, like a moderate approach is really wise because you want to monitor those shifts and make sure that you're not jumping on something too soon or waiting too long to get on board. So I think in terms of literacy, for example, I think the focus the past phase in education was really on the skills of reading and giving kids reading at their level. So I think the shifts are embedding the skills of reading with content knowledge because what people have learned is that that's what really boosts comprehension. So the brain always brain looks for patterns and connections and it wants to have those things to grow and learn. So I think when we didn't provide the content knowledge, we were pulling away some of those patterns and connections. So I don't know if I shared the example in the past. I went into a 6th grade class when they were piloting, I think, Wit and Wisdom. And I was asking the kids what was different. And they said, oh, this is way harder. And I said, are you learning? What are you learning? Oh my gosh, we're learning so much. So they said, way harder and we're learning so much. And I said, if it's harder, how come you're learning so much? And they said, well, because I know everything about the Dust Bowl. So now when I'm reading these complex texts, I understand what they're talking about because I know everything about the Dust Bowl because we just spent so much time studying the Dust Bowl. So I think it's that. connection now. That is the shift. With math, it is balancing. I think you heard Mr. Starczewski talk about this. It used to be mountains of practice problems. We all did them for homework and in class. And I think the shift to the thinking classroom and academic discourse is really important. Ultimately, kids need to be able to do the math. They need to understand the algorithm, be able to apply the algorithm, memorize the tables, whatever it is. But it's valuing the balance of that thinking piece as well. So that metacognitive piece of being a mathematician, where does that fit in there? I heard Chris and Christine talk about co-teaching a little bit, and my latest obsession is John Hattie's research, and it's red is things that actually have a negative impact, yellow is low impact, green is moderate impact, blue is really high impact, and co-teaching is in the yellow. So it's not that it has no value, but no matter what, it's going to have this much impact. Some of the things in the blue are things like self-reported grading. So when we say it, the conversation to grade or not to grade, that is the question. It kind of sounds like that's what it is, but often in education, you dig in and you realize, oh, that's not totally what it is. There's much more to this. So when I looked at self-reported grading and the impact it has on learning, it's more than a year's growth when you consistently engage kids in providing a rubric or an exemplar, having them monitor their progress based on your feedback, and then you ask them, based on this, what do you think you will have earned and why? And all that cognitive load that it puts them through really drives that learning, makes it stick, helps them determine goals and what has to happen next. So part of that conversation might be, you might want to think about doing the homework and the practice problems because it looks like that's what your brain needs. So make it not so much about the grade in terms of holding students accountable, but about the learning and engaging them in that process. Well, why aren't you learning? Well, what can we do? Or look at, you're killing it and you're not doing the homework. So, okay, you don't need it, right? Let's talk about what else you do need. So I think everything's in education is a bigger question, bigger problem. So I look forward to that next challenge of talking about student grading and things like that. Like there's always going to be a next. So piece of me wishes I lived till 95 and he never fires me because I undo all the things and, get everything on track.
That was a great answer to my big question. So thank you. You read my mind. And if you can I ask?
Sure.
Thank you.
Some important stuff.
For the disparities, and you answered some of it. So it's concerning. I mean, the 24.8 chronic absenteeism. I wonder about how much going on in the outside world is obviously affecting our learners and families. And that is an overall just concern. And hopefully we can work together to make our schools and communities.
Can't learn if you don't feel safe,
Can't learn if you don't feel safe.
right? Hierarchy need,
And seeing that number just hit me kind of hard,
Right.
Because I know we like to think sometimes we're in a little bit of a bubble, but we're not.
right?
And
And it's a two-parter. You can't learn if you don't feel safe, and you can't learn if you're not in school.
exactly right.
Right.
And so and then thinking about how we can better help. And then I did hear you say over the summer, some increased learning opportunities for our paraprofessionals and focusing on the multilingual learners, which is terrific. So just anything else kind of think of it to try to make sure that everybody is able to, I think you mentioned that you had data showing kind of how people have improved. I'd love to see that after or something, just because it's important. And I think that I don't want to be missing a large group of our learners. I know you don't either,
Right.
obviously.
So that is what has driven my new obsession with the Hattie research piece, because every district I've worked in has struggled with driving the growth of our students with disabilities and kind of taking the same approach to the problem. So then I finally get to okay, there must be another approach to solution to this problem. So if we know that these things, instructional practices or strategies in schools have the highest impact, how are we looking at those things through the lens of student achievement in terms of our students with disabilities and our multilingual learners? So student discourse has a very high impact rating. So are we working with our co-teachers around how to engage all students in high cognitive rigor student discourse? Is everybody getting those skills,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So to me, that's my new shift, my new thinking around is I want to drive a lot more PD. So I have the privilege of doing the new teacher workshops. So I've been working with them on those things. And it's been so awesome. Like I don't want to leave those sessions when they're over because the teachers are so engaged and enthusiastic and willing to take risks and try these things. And it makes sense to us. So it'd be nice if we could see that kind of spread.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good. Hey, Jen. In regards to the increased synergy and collaboration across the things, can you expand more on that? Because over the years, I mean, I'm going back even decades and decades, it's always been North Grafton does this, South Grafton does this, and you have your own experiences and your own, everything is kind of separate. So how is it going?
Yeah.
Kind of.
I'll give you an example. Since we don't have a coordinator to coordinate, we had to figure out a way for the coordination to still happen. So we sort of built this pyramid structure. So I'm just going to say fourth grade, just to pick a random grade. So fourth grade team at North works together and fourth grade team at Millbury Street works together on the EL implementation of the units and any revisions that they think need to happen in terms of scope and sequence, alignment, assessment. And then the grade level leaders from each school, we're giving them release time to get together. So they bring the work, and we have designed systems and documentation to capture the work. So they bring that together and share the thinking from the two grade spans and ultimately are able to synthesize that work. If they can't, they have to go back to teams like, oh, they're doing this. So Dan Berman and Rebecca Mahoney just worked together fifth grade, and it was up to see some of that. And it's new. It's frustrating and hard still, and it takes a long time because we're working it out. But they then can make decisions that are then captured in our curriculum map. So this is now the Grafton way of teaching Module 1, Unit 3, Grade 4, or whatever it is. Knowing that it's always dynamic, and as we learn and grow, and what our data shows, it will drive changes. But we talk about, this is where I get super geeky nerdy in terms of curriculum, but curriculum design in stages. Stage 1 and Stage 2 are tight. Everybody in fourth grade should be following the same scope and sequence, same standards, same central questions, enduring understandings, transfer goals, similar big assessments, because that's how we talk common language around what's best for kids and what we're seeing in learning. So that is where they're making those decisions and capturing it and documenting it. If that changes, we're saying that has to change collectively because you're changing the Grafton way. And we're not saying you can't. We're just saying you can't do it on your own. You can't do it in a silo because that's not what's best for all kids. If you're doing something incredible, all kids deserve to experience that. So fourth grade team had the idea of teaching Unit 2 in one of the modules before Unit 1. And normally you'd say, nope, that's a no-no. That's Stage 1. You can't touch scope and sequence. But right now I want them to take that risk and try it out because it might be better. If it is, they got to connect with fourth grade from the other building and say, hey, we tried this thing and it went way better. Fourth grade from the other building has to try it out too and agree. Or we're going to have to come back to the table and figure out that's not a change that we think is one we should make, or we need to try it for a little longer. So that is invigorating to me to see that level of dialogue happening, that level of collaboration. The example I gave earlier was around math, and they've been doing Envisioned Math for a while, but it was really driven by the STAR data and looking at student data and seeing a disparity between schools, and loved that the teachers in that school said, hey, our data's not as good. It's not quite as strong as this school. We got to connect with that and find out what's going on. So can you give us time? And so I have meetings with all the principals Thursday to talk about PD planning for next year, what the needs are, what the goals are. So for me, that's one is creating, we got to carve out time for teachers to revisit math units and continue doing the EL work.
Are we trying to link up like those major projects, right? Like, let's say, I think it was the state float projects, or like at one school, they would do something like the big projects where it's a memorable experience, right? Because you get to high school and then you say to another kid, oh, remember when we did the wax museum? And the kid's like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. I think when we talk about assessment, it's always Stage 2. So what are we going to take as evidence of student learning? So there's parts of that that are really tight. We want everybody to do this assessment because we have to be able to compare student data. Doesn't mean everybody has to have the same experience and do the same activities. That often goes into stage 3.
Mhm.
So if you aren't getting data about the standards in the unit, it's probably not an assessment, it's probably an activity. And that's where there's more room for autonomy between schools, between teachers, that kind of thing. But when it's giving us data about student, independent achievement in those standards, then we want to make sure it's coming from the schools.
And then I have one more question in regards to the STAR data.
Mm.
So, I love to compare data.
Yes.
So my question is, I see that the comparison is basically for one cohort, right? Like if I look at second grade, it shows them what they were the previous year for first grade. But do you have the data comparison for like all second grade for this year versus last year's second grade class versus for second grade?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does that?
I can bring it to I can do another round if you want, or we can do separate. I can pull the data any way the committee would like to look at it.
No, I was just curious.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was a test. Good. It was beautiful. Thank you.
I was really kind of energized by the focus on groups like English language learners or multilingual learners, students with disabilities, students that sometimes when we're talking about new curriculum, we're just talking about the curriculum at a really macro level, and we're not talking about, how it trickles down to groups that might not be the first ones you're thinking about. So I was really energized to hear you talk about that. But I'm wondering, sort of how you balance, particularly as students get older, sort of equity and achievement, but meaningful inclusion, and sort of the tracks as the kids get older in terms of making sure they're still accessing grade level material in a way that's accessible to them, but also interacting with, their peers.
Right. Right.
So I don't know if we can talk a little bit about that, what that looks
I
like.
can give you an example of some work. It's still elementary, but it's upper elementary that we were just doing, and it translates, I think, to middle school and high school. In the work that Steve, Kristen, and I are doing with the literacy specialists at Millbury Street, I got all excited in our last meeting because we have got to the point where we're talking about individual students, and we're looking at all the data we have on that student.
Yeah.
And really looking at like what's working, what's not working, why do we think that is? So what are we going to try? And then we meet again, how to go, what do we do next? And that leads to a lot of broader conversations. So the goal of our evaluation plan that I have to submit for Title I is which programs work for which students and why, so that we can capitalize on that with all students. So one of the things that came up was if we are doing Orton Gillingham, how long does it take a student in Grafton to go through the lessons of Orton Gillingham? Should it take that long? Why is it taking that long? Because every time we add programming tier 2, it's pulling from something, and sometimes physically pulling them from somewhere, right? So the goal is always least restrictive. How do we get kids back in with peers, knowing the instruction that is so rich and robust in the classroom?
Right.
So we want them to be accessing that in addition to getting the supports that they need. So I think that work is going to trickle up as well. So looking at who are we sending to the middle school, at what level, why is that? Who are we sending to the high school, at what level, why is that, and what are we doing? So we saw some of that in the work at the high school around world language in terms of who was able to access what at the middle school, driving what their options were at the high school. So if they got boxed out because of IEP goals and objectives at the middle school, they were already really not accessing grade level curriculum with their peers at the high school.
Yeah.
So just doing a lot of work around that data. The math, like trying to engage more kids in algebra, like authentically in algebra in 8th grade. We're looking at scope and sequence of math instruction. Can we originally adopted an accelerated version for 6th grade. We dropped that and went back to a regular version, but are going to get to the point where we'll be able to teach 1 or 2 units of 7th grade by the end of 6th grade. And then 7th will do the same for 8th, push them forward. So who are the students who don't have the prerequisite skills or need a little more time, even though the pace has picked up, and how do we meet those needs? So there's master scheduling conversations that happen then, because you kind of need a win block so that you're not pulling kids out of core content areas. So it all becomes part of the conversation and the work, and then we figure out who needs to do what. So principals look at master schedules to figure out when can we weave in time for intervention, enrichment, extension, that kind of thing. So it's kind of, I feel like it's a no stone unturned project process. And the cool thing is the people I work with are fully invested in it. And I truly believe we'll get there in terms of our student subgroups. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great stuff.
Yeah, good question.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for the rest of your great to see you.
Recording stopped.
Again, did that you last?
I always think it's my laptop and I do the same thing.
I love it. You're like mic drop out.
I'm done. Bathroom break. I just gave you one.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
Sorry, dude.
It's okay.
Yeah, it was very jarring to see ourselves on our big
All
screen.
of a sudden. I know.
Terrible.
What? I'm wearing not black for a change, so that's exciting.
Very colorful.
What are you talking about?
Terrible. Oh, I can all
There.
just should drink my water like a Steinman.
Part of the things for seniors used as like indicators of success because they're like optional. So she was like saying there's only 21 seniors doing pathways this year.
Yeah, they're not. I mean,
But they're like, it's just like
Recording in progress.
very all
Correct. We're good.
well. So they,
I think no, it's not a measurement in the same way other things are, but it's a program we have and there's like a 50% drop off. So
because a lot of people kind of realize like you can't put it on applications because you don't get it until June of your state.
right,
People didn't like so the extra hour.
right. Yeah. That's actually really good feedback.
Yeah, that didn't good. A little power like Mrs. Buckley because it was like people didn't want to do it.
That's really good feedback. You're right. That's a big deal when you're picking and choosing what you can do. Exactly. Yeah. I feel like you should do your update, Delaney, before we go on. I'm going to bounce around just in case. So if you want to go and
Sure, I
you have
can
stuff to do.
We have our reset day tomorrow at the high school, followed by a pep rally with some homecoming style games. That's exciting. Teachers versus students. We have our spring play announced, The Little Mermaid, this April, and spring sports has started up with many home openers this week. And snow melted. I know, snow melted. Go in the stick.
You won Mr. GHS.
Oh, Anthony Giandomenico won Mr. GHS.
Yay.
Yep. Our reigning champion. They didn't stop. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delaney.
Hi, Delaney.
Thanks, Delaney.
Really. Norms.
Yay. Thank
You want to talk about norms?
No, no. Oh, that was our
that was we're okay.
I mean, at least it's Boston
you know what that is?
specific. No.
Oh, what? It's for cheers.
See, we're gonna have to
We're gonna have a cheers marathon.
Oh, I can't wait.
listen. You will like.
My kids even like Cheers. When it was on Netflix, Elia loved it.
I don't think it was like
We watched it for out of fire with our small children.
Didn't remember it on Netflix. I mean, it's like so Boston now.
it's
It
so
is.
Boston.
Exactly. Clearly, I didn't grow up here, as you all know now.
So we finally managed to bring back the norm.
That we norm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So whimsical.
It is whimsical. So when we last discussed these, there were some repetitive stuff. There were some, we had an entry there about not evaluating or talking about the superintendent's performance in public, which was in public meetings, which made no sense because we, in fact, evaluate the superintendent in a public meeting and are supposed to. So we kind of cleaned up things like that and wanted to kind of, as a group, refresh them and look at them again.
So, Leora, I'm not sure if I have the updated copy because what I have is the exact same copy that was back in October, except with just one deletion of number 4 off of communication with the superintendent. Everything else is the exact same.
Okay. it's probably pretty close. That was the big main thing.
Well, I mean, because I went back, I rewatched the meeting. Like
Okay.
we were supposed to eliminate the role of the chair, and the vice chair of that was supposed to be a link to another
Did
for
we-
the MASC. We
did
talked
we-
about that.
did
Yeah,
we? Okay.
yeah. There was a lot of stuff.
I only read the minutes as opposed to watching.
Yeah.
So fair enough.
And then the other thing is, I would really like to see the minutes from the workshop
From the workshop.
before we start reviewing this.
I submitted them and it was the wrong, it was, I have them and I had two files that had the same name and it was the wrong one. So they have actually, did you receive them? Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's just bring this back to the.
Yeah, I would like to move to, bring it back. because
Okay.
We spent a lot of time last time going over a lot of the stuff. I think just rewatch it.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's bring it back. That was quick. Let's do that on the 4th.
Thank you both.
Anything on future scheduling?
Oh, I see.
That audit
Well-
report is still in draft form for ways for Mary to just had
Yeah.
some kind of issue with the town side and the firm that did it. So
Okay.
I'll push that till the 7th, assuming they haven't finalized.
I have something.
Yes.
Leora, I'm meaning to ask. So there's this new citizens award.
Oh, yeah. The outstanding Grafton
Yeah.
citizen. We're supposed to actually,
I get it. We're supposed to have
one of us. Yes,
Yeah.
that should be on the
So
agenda.
we need to
So
vote somebody.
we need to vote somebody to be on the. Does anybody particularly want to be on that?
What is it? What is
So there's the select board has implemented this outstanding Grafton Citizen Award, and they're soliciting nominations. And so they've asked that the school committee send a representative to the judging of that.
I see.
So
Do you know when that is?
I don't. I didn't
see
see
it
it set. It hasn't been set.
Somebody's that.
Probably whoever is.
it's selected.
Well, they have to do it before town. They're announcing it at town meeting.
Right.
So they're soliciting applications. I don't know the deadline.
No, I
I
can look it up.
look it up on. I'll
Yeah.
talk slow.
No, soon though.
Yeah, well, it has
Yeah.
pretty soon. And did anybody reach out to you and ask you, Leora?
Yes.
Oh, good.
They did. They did. I meant
Trying
to.
to read the email.
Oh, yes.
The select board has created an outstanding citizen award that will be presented for the first time at Maytown meeting. At your next meeting, could the school committee please choose a representative to serve as a member of the group that will review the nominations and make a selection? More information about the award in the group can be found below.
And the deadline for nominations is March 31st, by the way.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, they're gonna have to.
So after that, a group will be convened to review the nominations and make the selection. The group shall consist of one select board representative, one school committee representative, the town clerk, and the town administrator or their designee.
And in future years, the timeline is nominations will be accepted January 1st through March 31st. So this was just last week. So
Got it. So we need somebody to step up to be the school committee designee. If someone wants to, great. I'm also happy to do it, whatever.
And I would do it. I just think we should default to the chair almost. Do you want to do it like
I'm
the
happy to
chair
do it.
should kind of be the representative of our committee?
I love that.
I'm more than happy to do that. If everyone's down with that.
for you.
Yeah, I
for all of
submitted
us.
someone, so I would not want to be on it.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's not fair.
I think, just yeah.
And you can't submit somebody on a board who's elected official.
Right.
So if you guys were thinking of submitting me,
It was halfway written.
you can just send it my way and I'll read it.
Okay.
But
I will-
I love it. I think it's a great idea. So
Yep.
thanks, Laura.
Sure. Thanks, Kristen.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah.
And I didn't see that email, so it's weird that I just knew. I'm just saying.
Strange. I wonder how Laura.
No, it's 'cause I submitted the thing. I was
okay.
like, hey, wait a minute. I haven't heard about
Yeah.
things to judge. That's really what it was.
Yeah.
But I like
Judge
thing.
Okay. Anything else that needs to go on here?
So the reduction planning, Doctor, coming at the next meeting, is that like the reduction budget?
Yes.
correct. So
And I know you don't know this at this point, but I think for the next meeting, I'd like to see. So even if the override goes through, it's $5 million over 5 years. what would it look like each year? Because it wouldn't be $1 million a year. Like if you started at like a 5% increase, it would be like 904,000, 5.5. Like you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So what would that number be?
Okay.
Yep, I think that's
Yes,
fair.
more than just what the first year.
Yeah.
It's important. Agreed. I don't know. Tell me if this is not appropriate to say now. I did reach out. Remember the last meeting we talked about that 360. I did reach out to MASC. I did learn that it is actually not in our privy to be able to do that, and it's not appropriate.
Great.
And I actually got kind of a nasty response on, "Are you a new member to be asking this question?" Wow, it was kind of rude. Not by MASC, but by someone
Like
else.
another person. Huh.
And I was very kind, but I thought that was a little
Good
weird.
for you for being kind.
But anyway, I guess we're really not supposed to do that. I did send Dr. Cummings his survey. He did it in 2020, which that was, did you let me know if you didn't receive it? But yeah, that was kind of PTSD because there's a lot of pandemic
Really?
thoughts on it. But so maybe if you want to do it
Yourself.
we are
but we wouldn't do it.
supposed to be soliciting.
Thankful. Yeah, kind of.
But I also, when we talked about it, I was wondering, but it also doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Like,
Right.
thinking-
We're,
No.
yeah.
but
It does.
but it was a great question to ask, and I actually thought, yeah, person was weird. Sorry for watching from home. Interesting person. They weren't from.
I would think not. Okay. Anything we need to add on your evaluation? Not really. That's
I
lose.
I don't think
Get that ready.
Lou's ready to go.
Okay.
I just need to do my self-eval
Cool.
by
Perfect.
end of next week.
Okay. Great. All right. Excellent. Approval of minutes.
So this
Yeah.
go ahead.
I spoke with Mrs. Mahoney because when I read these minutes, I said, wow, these were old. This is from last year. And so I reached out to her and I said, did you submit the right minutes to Dr. Cummings? And she said that she did. And that because I went back to last year, March 25th, and it was in our packet from last year, but it just was never approved.
Was never yes. Well,
Mhm. So these are old.
did her homework.
They are.
And yet they are old. They were just never.
It was weird because it was in our packet.
We did the meeting, but not the hearing, probably.
No,
No, we
did
have-
it all.
Yeah.
I think
We had them.
they or we just had a meeting and just in the excitement
Rolled.
of the meeting skipped over it.
That's what I mean. We approved the meeting minutes, but not
Correct.
necessarily
not
the budget hearing.
And Rebecca's done. We'll have the meetings that the minute she just finished. She did a really great job overcoming all of those audio.
Oh, right. You're like, oh, God. Yeah.
You can take a good look at that, and obviously we can fill in gaps if needed. But we'll have those for the 7th.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll still take a motion then.
Madam Chair, I move that the committee approve the March 11th, 2025 budget hearing minutes as written.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
It was interesting. Did anybody?
I was like, look at that reading it. And I'm like, this is late. This is,
You know, I was like,
Mrs. Marr.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I first saw it said Amy, I was like, wait a minute, that's not right.
it's not like Rebecca.
So
So I probably can't vote on that because I wasn't.
yeah, you
You actually can. Just doesn't.
just
I mean, I was here for it, but I.
You were in the audience. That's true.
No, I mean, you're allowed to vote on minutes.
Yeah.
Because you're not attended to. It's one other weird thing. But
All right. Well, ready to vote? All in favor?
Ready.
Okay. Motion passes. Did anyone have any questions on the warrants? Okay. Do we have any policy
no, next week.
next week?
Mhm.
Next week's a big policy week.
And actually,
It's just,
Laura, could we? I did say to email you about that one.
yeah, no, actually, I have updates and we're supposed to. Yeah, you're. Yeah,
okay.
good. Good news.
We have neither correspondence nor executive session. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thanks and good night, Grafton.